So being as I've been painting Grey Knights recently and going through my backlog, I figured I'd kind of weigh in a little bit on the new controversy surrounding the lore changes and some of the other things with GW as a whole. So, let's talk today about the Terminus Decree. It's a touchy subject at the moment. Originally a piece of throwaway lore from the Matt Ward era, morphed into a super, "Oh my god, kill all the Space Marines and Primarch Super Turbo Virus, no really, my dad works for Nintendo and it's going to work, guys!" And now it's morphed into,
this is the Big E. If I ever come back, I need you to get your bros and put my ass back on the golden throne. Yes, like a child at dinner time. No. I won't tell you how to do it. No. There isn't a special weapon or chemical to help you. You think the Custodians and the Infamous Icana will help you? Nah, fam, you crazy. Okay, love you, kisses. Big E, out.
This whole thing reeks of lazy writing and a lack of core understanding of the Warhammer lore, as well as a lack of coordination amongst the writing staff. I would have accepted the Terminus Decree being the Super Astartes flu like was mentioned in End of the Death Volume 3. But I would have preferred it to remain as it was. A giant mystery. Was it in order to kill the Emperor in humanity's last hour to hopefully revive him? Was it the same order to trigger the Talisman of Seven Hammers and slam shut the human webway, and likewise damn humanity to another age of strife? Was it in order to gather the Sensei and execute them to let the Emperor return? Was it a dry cleaning receipt for the Emperor's blanket because he's really cold? We didn't know, but the possibilities were endless. J.J. Abrams, for all of the memes about him, describe it as the mystery box, and when executed effectively in a manner that does not preclude that its audience are a bunch of idiots, it can be a good storytelling device. The whole mystique surrounding the hatch in Lost, in a lot of ways, is more interesting than the actual hatch when it was opened. An example of the opposite being Maz Kanata screaming that Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber and her getting it being a story for another time, and it never being brought up ever again. It kinda didn't work. At least in my opinion. So, let's engage in a fun experiment. I want to try and do two things here, and write up a way this decree could work. Please put down the vegetables and the pitchforks and the torches, let me explain. And likewise, I want to write out some ideas on how to retain the mystery and give more of a glimpse into the box. I know I'm just an amateur miniature painter with too much time on my hands and perhaps a touch of autism, but however, I will humbly submit this for the greater community's assessment and approval. Let us begin with how I would have written this new lore and done it differently, if that would matter at all. So I present to you a barely tabletop production of the Terminus Decree, the Ultimate Sanction. Eons ago, in a time long forgotten to the apocalyptic warfare of the Unification, two old friends met in the shadow of a great mountain. Their greetings and exchanges going beyond the physical plane into a deep psychic realm only few would ever experience. In the time span of a single leaf falling from a dying tree, the friends shared ages worth of knowledge. A tribal shepherd seeking his mutated lamb would be struck blind by the brilliance of the two beings in front of him, and he would later describe the final image he ever saw as being one of perfection incarnate. The friends ended their psychic communion, and with a wave of one's hand, they entered the great mountain to continue discussing their machinations. The being that would later be named Malkador sat across from the Master of the Lines, soon to be renamed the Emperor of Mankind. Malkador knew that this was the being he had been seeking for thousands of years, and likewise the Master of the Lines knew this was the moment to reveal himself. Plans, both realized and dashed, were discussed, and counterplans, variations, and contingencies laid out. Great sins forgiven, and new ideas given fertilizer to prosper. One such idea was so terrible, so dreadful, that any record of it needed to be tightly controlled. The mere scent of this decree, no matter its author, could spiral the entirety of the Master of the Lines' millennia-long work into ruin. An autoscribe, diligently recording the meeting, was blinked out of existence by a single psychic word, as to not witness the creation of this decree. The whole mountain shook from the psychic backlash, and the ancient circuitry embedded into the walls and cogitators exploded with sparks. There was absolute and total silence as the two men formulated the ultimate failsafe. One final order to save mankind. Of the path that mankind could take, a vague future was foreseen by both men. A future where one of them would endure the worst fate anyone could be cursed with. A newly found piece of archaeotech in the Himalayan deserts presented a unique opportunity for the Master of the Lines to guide his people in the future. Ideas for making beings to be wardens of the device, or taking turns being interred upon it, were floated and picked apart. Neither knew what would lead to the eventual use of this device in this manner, but both knew it was a possibility. Both men decided that at the event of an absolute cataclysm, where the forces of the Aether would threaten humanity, the device could be made to stem the tide of the incorporeal horror and provide a beacon of light like the old Pharos of Alexandria to guide souls through the turbulence. However, both men realized that their strength was not absolute, and that the primordial annihilator could potentially channel through them if they faltered for even a second. The way would be open, the path clear, and the doors unbarred, allowing any manner of demon to take control of the being interred in the device. The two friends decided that in that event, any attempt to cease their eternal vigil needed to be met with absolute denial. Scratching the decree on simple parchment with a sharpened bone and ink of ash and offal, the parchment was placed into a wooden box made from some of the final ironwood trees on old Earth. The Master of the Lines entrusted Malcador implicitly in how and to whom he disposed of the ultimate sanction, and both men departed knowing that this would more than likely not come to pass. The Terminus Decree would eventually pass to the Knights of Titan. Its wording vague, but its objective clear. They are to keep whomever is on the throne, no matter the cost, as the consequences would mean the end of mankind. As centuries have passed, knowledge of the decree is kept only by the Supreme Grand Master, with only Grand Master Dragio breaking with tradition and revealing its existence to the other Grand Masters of the Order of the Hammer. They take up the mantle of being the blade forged in defiance, and the ultimate responsibility to safeguard humanity, even if they have to sacrifice everything in the process. So, that could work. Maybe. That's my interpretation of the lore change and trying to get it away from a Palpatine's return somehow type retcon. But if it were up to me, I would have kept the box a mystery. Perhaps given more backstory as it did previously, but hint at one or all the theories being correct. The decree is to kill the Emperor, then sacrifice themselves and rebirth into the warp as the new man, or to guide the Starchild back to Terra. I'd also possibly mention the Sensei, as they are a bat-crap crazy bit of old lore I wish was expounded upon, and in my personal headcanon, Constantine Valdor is also a Sensei. Or, we can bring an even newer lore and mention that, hey, you have to go to get Constantine Valdor and his friends from the infinite weird Wumbo City, and bring them to come play in our galaxy and cleanse its taint of chaos. And when you're done, either put them back into the weird Wumbo City, or likewise make sure they don't do anything else ever again with your ultimate sanction. Have fun. If Games Workshop kept the mystery box more mysterious and actually pay attention to their lore, this codex may have staved off some of the controversy outside of Khaldor Drago no longer being a dude, some of the rule changes, that kind of thing that normally comes with every new codex update. Back in the Matt Ward days, we had the Grey Knights making mystical space shampoo out of a sisterhood of the Sisters of Battle and going to war against chaos. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Matt Ward. We went from the time of grim derp under Matt Ward, well-intentioned but poorly executed in my opinion, to a new era of corporate hammer. Sanitized and poorly written to push more product into Funko Pop sales and Target stores. But these are my ramblings. Take them for what you will. I'll go back to painting minis and enjoying that process. And if I ever decide to play again, I'll continue to play with my 5th and 6th edition codices from the Grey Knights and Dark Angels. As always, remember, a painted model on the table, to the best of your ability, is far better than a sprue sitting in your closet. Unlocking my phone for the end of the video.